The Democratic Party's history is complicated and multifaceted, filled with both progress and regression. It's a story of contradictions and change, reflecting the evolving values and struggles of the nation itself. Understanding the party today means looking back at its difficult past, a past that is deeply intertwined with America's original sin, slavery. In the 19th century, the Democratic Party became entangled with slavery, a dark chapter that would leave a lasting mark. This association would shape the party's identity for decades, influencing its policies and political alliances. Southern Democrats were strong supporters of slavery, seeing it as a cornerstone of their social and economic systems. They saw it as essential to their way of life and their economy, which was heavily reliant on slave labor. This stance put them at odds with growing abolitionist movements in the North, creating a deep national divide. Figures like John C. Calhoun, a prominent Democrat, fiercely defended slavery, arguing it was a positive good. They argued it was a positive good, not a necessary evil, and sought to expand its reach. As the nation expanded westward, the debate over slavery intensified, bringing the issue to the forefront of American politics. Democrats found themselves on the side of expanding slavery into new territories, further entrenching their position. This position further solidified the party's association with racial injustice, a legacy that would take years to overcome. The issue of slavery would ultimately lead to the nation's greatest crisis, the Civil War, forever altering the course of American history. The Civil War was a defining moment in American history. It was a conflict that not only determined the fate of the Union, but also set the stage for the nation's future. It was also a turning point for the Democratic Party, which found itself deeply entangled in the politics of the era. The party found itself on the side of the Confederacy, aligning with those who sought to break away from the Union. Southern Democrats, committed to preserving slavery, led the secession movement. They were determined to maintain their way of life, which was built on the backs of enslaved people. They formed the Confederate States of America, a coalition of states that sought independence from the Union. This decision had profound consequences for the party's image, casting a long shadow over its future. It cemented its association with slavery and white supremacy in the eyes of many, a stigma that would be hard to shake off. The war split the Democratic Party along regional lines, creating deep divisions within its ranks. Northern Democrats were divided on their support for the war. Some were staunchly against it, while others believed in preserving the Union at all costs. While some supported the Union, others sympathized with the Confederacy, leading to a fractured political landscape. The war's end brought about the abolition of slavery, a monumental step towards equality. However, it did not erase the racial divisions that fueled the conflict. These divisions would continue to shape American society for generations. The Democratic Party, particularly in the South, would continue to grapple with its legacy of racism in the decades that followed, struggling to redefine its identity in a changing world. After the Civil War, the nation embarked on a period of reconstruction. The goal was to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society. This period saw the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. These amendments abolished slavery, guaranteed equal protection under the law, and granted voting rights to black men. However, Reconstruction faced fierce resistance, particularly from Democrats in the South. Many Southern Democrats refused to accept the idea of equal rights for black people. They formed groups like the Ku Klux Klan to terrorize black communities and suppress their newfound freedoms. Democrats also implemented policies aimed at disenfranchising black voters. These tactics included poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses. These measures effectively stripped black people of their voting rights. The Democratic Party's resistance to Reconstruction had long-lasting consequences. The Jim Crow era marked a dark chapter in American history. It was a period of legalized racial segregation and discrimination in the South. From the late 19th to the mid-20th century, Jim Crow laws permeated every aspect of Southern life. Southern Democrats played a central role in creating and upholding this system. They used their power to enforce segregation in schools, housing, transportation, and public accommodations. These laws relegated black people to second-class citizenship. They denied them basic rights and opportunities. Lynchings and other forms of racial violence were widespread. Southern Democrats often turned a blind eye to these atrocities or actively condoned them. The Democratic Party's deep entanglement with Jim Crow would cast a long shadow on its reputation. A change is gonna come, Truman's civil rights and the seeds of transformation. The mid-20th century witnessed a shift within the Democratic Party. President Harry Truman took bold steps towards racial equality. In 1948, he issued an executive order desegregating the armed forces. This decision faced strong opposition from Southern Democrats, but Truman stood firm, believing it was a moral imperative. Truman's actions marked a turning point. They signaled a growing willingness within the party to confront its racist past. The civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s and 60s. Democrats played an increasingly prominent role in the fight for racial justice. This shift wouldn't be without its internal struggles. The party remained divided on the issue of civil rights. The Great Realignment from Dixiecrats to champions of civil rights. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were landmark achievements. They outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. These acts fundamentally reshaped American society. They also led to a major realignment within the Democratic Party. President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Democrat, signed these acts into law. This decision caused a rift within the party. Many Southern Democrats deeply opposed to civil rights felt betrayed. Some switched parties, joining the Republican ranks. This shift marked the beginning of the Southern strategy. This strategy aimed to appeal to white Southern voters who felt alienated by the Democratic Party's embrace of civil rights. Despite the backlash, the Democratic Party became increasingly associated with the fight for equality. The Party of Progress, embracing civil rights and social justice. In the decades following the Civil Rights era, the Democratic Party solidified its commitment to social justice. It championed policies aimed at addressing racial inequality. These policies included affirmative action, fair housing laws, and criminal justice reform. The party became more diverse, welcoming voices from marginalized communities. It elected more black officials and representatives at all levels of government. This shift reflected the changing demographics of the country and the party's growing commitment to inclusion. The Democratic Party's platform came to reflect a broader commitment to civil rights. It advocated for the rights of women, LGBTQ+ individuals, and other marginalized groups. This evolution marked a significant departure from the party's past. A new era of challenges navigating race in the 21st century. Despite progress, the Democratic Party continues to grapple with issues of race and inequality in the 21st century. The rise of mass incarceration, police brutality, and systemic racism demonstrate the ongoing challenges. The Black Lives Matter movement brought renewed attention to these issues. It sparked a national conversation about race and justice. The Democratic Party found itself at the forefront of this conversation. It faced pressure to address racial disparities within its own ranks and in its policy agenda. The party has taken steps to address these concerns, but the work of achieving racial justice is far from over. The Democratic Party recognizes that addressing systemic racism requires ongoing commitment and action. The fight continues, the Democratic Party and the unfinished business of equality. The Democratic Party's journey from its pro-slavery roots to its current position as a champion of civil rights is a testament to the transformative power of social movements and political change. Over the decades, the party has undergone significant ideological shifts driven by the relentless efforts of activists and leaders who have fought for justice and equality. While the party has made significant strides in confronting its past, it acknowledges that the fight for racial justice is far from over. The legacy of systemic racism continues to impact communities across the nation, and the Democratic Party recognizes the need for ongoing efforts to address these deep-seated issues. The party remains committed to addressing systemic racism, promoting equality, and creating a more just society for all. This commitment is reflected in its policies and initiatives aimed at dismantling barriers to equality and ensuring that every individual has the opportunity to thrive. This ongoing struggle requires continued dialogue, self-reflection, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It involves listening to the voices of those who have been marginalized and working collaboratively to create meaningful change. The Democratic Party's evolution serves as a reminder that political parties are not static entities. They are dynamic and capable of transformation, often in response to the changing needs and values of society. They are capable of change and growth, often in response to social movements and evolving values. The party's history is a testament to the power of collective action and the importance of staying true to the principles of justice and equality. The party's history is a story of both progress and setbacks, reminding us that the pursuit of justice is an ongoing process. It is a journey that requires perseverance, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to the ideals of equality and fairness for all.